some consideration about the risk that we have just listened to. There are two basic family of risk. One is financial vulnerabilities. Financial vulnerabilities basically are the situation, the monetary situation around the world, not talking about a specific area now, but the monetary situation, the monetary policy situation around the world. You have heard about this strange word, normalization of monetary policy. What does that mean? That means that monetary policy is not normal now. There is a debate about this, but just think about what happened in the just few years story when this whole story about the unconventional monetary policy began. It began in 2011 when the United States decided to go for this quantitative easing monetary policy. Very strange way of saying that they were just expanding the monetary base just to help the economy. And when they started the whole thing, immediately there was a debate about what are you doing? How can you come back? And they said, don't worry, they said, we know how to go on reverse. That was their conviction. And the signal that not everything was exactly as they thought came 2 years later, in 2013, when Bernanke, the Fed president at that time, decided to say that sooner or later this monetary policy had to be changed and to go back. The day after, but not the day after, some minutes later, that declaration, there was a big turmoil on the market. And all these guys were really surprised and caught by surprise because they could never think of such a strong reaction to just a few words, not action, words. And so they realized that going back was not that easy, was not an easy matter. And so it began what is now common, and the fact that the central bankers around the world had to first communicate very, very clearly their action at the markets in order to prepare the markets for what has to come. So, prepare the markets, for instance, to the fact that they started revising their monetary policy. And this is what is called now communication of central bankers, and why communication is supposed to be another sort of instrument of monetary policy. Then, at that point, the central bankers decided also that it was very useful also to exchange views on this decision, and that it was better not to go alone on this, in order not to put some problems on the markets. So the Americans began to say, okay, we are moving along the lines of a change in monetary policy, but following the evolution of the economy. Remember that we are not doing anything against our economy, but following the economy. So they said, we are looking to data. And this is another guideline that is followed by all central bankers now. Then another thing you have to remember that the first to begin this renormalization of monetary policy were the United States, of course. But they are the only one. Remember that the ECB, the Bank of Japan, and other central bankers are still in what is called the unconventional monetary policy. So there is a sort of balancing. One central bank is moving back, the other banks are keeping the situation as it is. The problem is, what will happen when the other banks, the other central banks, will begin changing their monetary policy? Again, it will be crucial to look at what the numbers say. That means it will be crucial to see how the economies are faring, because this action depends on the evolution of the economy. No central bank will act against, let's say, or putting their economy at risk. That is one message that is clearly stated clearly communicated to the markets. But the problem is, what happens is, this data change rapidly, and so decisions have to be taken rapidly. No one knows. And this is one of the risks, one of the financial vulnerabilities. So, the other kind of risks that we are confronting are coming, let's say, more from the politics of the world, from geopolitics. And one of these is protectionism. Let's call it with its name, and not with all these kind of definition like inward-looking policies. It's protectionism. The problem is, if you remember, when the G20 became on the scene of the economic environment, one of maybe the only success of the G20 action was a reaction to the crisis in 2008, exactly also because of avoiding any sort of protectionist reaction. If you remember the other big crisis of the 30s of last centuries, one of the consequences, terrible consequences of that crisis, was that the first reaction of every single state was a protectionist decision. And that worsened dramatically the situation. So it was very clear to the politicians, to the central bankers, to the economists that this time should be different. And this time protectionism should be avoided at all costs. But that was 10 years ago. Now the economies are expanding, are growing. And so protectionism is coming back. Why? It's coming back because also of other evolution and also because of other trends that are characterizing our economies, our countries. These trends are called secular trends, if you want, or maybe, let's say, longer-term trends. And one of these is demographics. In the advanced economies, our population are growing older and older, and this is putting some tension, not now, but in the near future probably, on the capacity of the resilience of our economy, on the possibility of increasing productivity. Productivity is the other magic word. Productivity is the one thing that may guarantee a sort of progress, evolution. Without productivity, we are doomed to die, in a sense, economically speaking, of course. So, demographics, but the other one is technological change. Technological change, probably you see it all the day, is very rapid, is changing our lives completely, but not only our lives, our way of producing is displacing a lot of people, a lot of jobs are lost. And probably more than this are going to be lost in the future. And these are putting a lot of people in very bad situation, and they are reacting with the only arm they have, that is with their political support. So, populism, nationalism, and so on and so forth. So protectionism is back, and with protectionism all sorts of things.